Hi, I'm Gidon from technologyman.com. The Akaso EK7000 is a budget action camera that costs around £50 or $60. It comes with a mountain of accessories, including a waterproof housing and a remote. It has built-in Wi-Fi so it can be controlled via an app on your smartphone and supports resolutions up to a theoretical 4K. But is it any good, and how does it compare to a GoPro, even one a couple of generations old? The packaging is quite smart and very similar to GoPro's. Inside the box you get loads of accessories, some more useful than others. The most interesting included accessory is a remote control. There's also two 1050 mAh batteries and an external dual charger with an accompanying micro USB cable. I'll cover the remote and some of the other accessories later. There's also a brief getting started guide with a download link to the complete user manual. The camera is enclosed in a waterproof housing that is waterproof down to 30 meters. The build quality of the case appears to be pretty good. Open the tight clasp to release the camera. The camera is very lightweight, made of a fairly cheap feeling but grippy plastic. With a battery and SD card, it weighs just 57 grams and measures 59mm by 40mm by 30mm, including the lens protrusion. In its case, it's 115 grams, which is still lighter than a GoPro Hero 5 without its frame. The case measures 76mm by 61mm by 40mm. The 50mm screen is not touch sensitive. There are just 4 physical buttons to control the camera. The front of the camera has a lens that protrudes 5mm and the combined power and mode button. On the top is the shutter button with a status LED that flashes red when you're recording. One side has 2 buttons that move around menus and perform some other functions that I'll come to. There's also the speaker. On the other side there's a micro USB charging port and a micro HDMI display port. Above these 2 ports is a microphone. The manual states that there's no audio with the waterproof case attached. Then there's a micro SD port which supports cards up to 32GB. No card is included, but I'm using it with a Lexar 32GB Class 10 card. I did try a larger SanDisk 64GB card, but it wasn't even recognised. On the bottom of the camera is the battery compartment that you'll need to use your fingernail to remove. It's a very basic affair and reminds you how much you paid for the camera. The batteries already come with some charge, but you can top them up in the included external charger, or you can charge them in the camera itself with a micro USB cable, albeit a little slower. You can use the camera while it's charging, which is handy for time-lapse photography amongst other things. A long press of the power button on the front of the camera turns the camera on and off. There's 10 seconds before you can start recording compared to 3 seconds with a GoPro Hero 5 Black. The first time you turn it on, you'll most likely be prompted to format the SD card. Press the up or down side button and then the shutter button to confirm. Press the shutter button to start and stop recording. Along the top of the screen you'll see the recording time and the estimated time remaining, which was just under 3 hours on a 32GB card at 1080p 60 frames per second. Along the bottom there's battery remaining and the current date and time. Press the up button to play back your recorded video. Press the down button to choose playback of any still images. Press the shutter button to confirm your selection. Move around your media with the up and down buttons. Press the shutter button to play back any videos using the camera's built-in speaker. Use the power mode button to go back. A long press of the shutter button will let you delete an image. The camera defaults to video recording mode. Pressing the mode button cycles through to photo mode, burst mode, time-lapse mode, and then the settings menu. Press the shutter button to select, the arrow buttons to move around, and the power mode button to go back. I won't go over all the settings, most are pretty self-explanatory. In video resolution, you can choose from 720p at 120 frames per second up to 4K at 25 frames per second. I'd recommend leaving video recording at the default 1080p at 60 frames per second. 4K mode isn't a native mode and just upscales the resolution, so it's best avoided. 2.7K is only 30 frames per second, so it's okay for slower motion, but for any sort of action you'll want 60 frames per second. I'll come back to this in the video quality section. There are no options to change the 170-degree field of view or the aspect ratio, which is fixed at 16:9 for all modes including photo mode. In loop recording, you can choose to continuously record 1, 3 or 5 minute loops. This is as close as you'll get to a dashcam mode. You have to manually start it recording and it's not recording the last 1, 3 or 5 minutes, only chunks of these times. So if you had an incident at 3 minutes and 5 seconds after you started recording with a 3-minute setting, you'd only get 5 seconds of footage. In photo resolution, I would stick with the default 12 megapixels, but if you're really short on space you could select a lower resolution all the way down to 4 megapixels. In time-lapse you can choose a recording interval of a fairly limited 3, 5 or 10 seconds. It will record these as photos which you'll need to join together as a video yourself. You'll also need to confusingly turn on the next continuous lapse setting to actually enable the time-lapse mode. Otherwise, time-lapse mode will just be a self-timer mode taking a single photo after the specified interval. Burst mode only has one option, so I'm not sure why it's even in settings. Pressing the shutter button once in burst mode will take 3 shots in rapid succession. There's exposure and white balance controls which affect all modes, and there's an option to manually flip the image upside down depending on how you have the camera attached. In Screensaver you can choose when the screen powers off after either 1, 3 or 5 minutes, or you can have the screen stay on all the time. The default is 1 minute. In Auto Shutdown you can change when the camera powers off after either 1, 3 or 5 minutes of inactivity. You can also turn this off so it won't shut down automatically at all. The default is 3 minutes. Date stamp is by default on. I'd recommend turning it off, since even if you set the correct time and date, every time you change the battery these settings are lost, so you'll most likely have the wrong date and time stamped on half your videos. Volume defaults to middle. Turn this off if you don't want the time-lapse mode beeping continuously. The following beep settings don't configure these countdown beeps. You can format the card, which the manual recommends doing regularly to avoid any issues, and the final configurable setting resets everything back to factory defaults. Basically, if you set it back to factory defaults, turn off date stamp and turn on continuous loop unless you prefer a self-timer, you're probably good to go. And that's one advantage of a basic camera like this versus something like a GoPro with its many, sometimes confusing recording modes and options. There isn't any image stabilisation at this price point, and there is no way to change between PAL and NTSC frame rates. You're stuck with mainly NTSC at 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second, with just 4K recorded at 25 frames per second. Don't make the mistake of installing the iSmart DV app that the electronic user manual specifies. This doesn't work with the EK7000. If it works with yours, please let me know in the comments. There may be some variants of the camera with a different chipset compatible with the iSmart DV app, but mine isn't. Download the Akaso DV app, as specified on the box and in the quick start manual. With the camera on, press the down button to enter Wi-Fi mode. Go into your smartphone or tablet's Wi-Fi settings and connect to iCam Akaso with 1234567890 as the password. Then open the Akaso app, make sure your EK7000 is displayed and tap connect. It's pretty straightforward and the app works quite well. You get a live preview with very little latency, and you can quickly choose your recording resolution, recording mode and settings. Range was okay too at between 5 and 10 meters. Conveniently, these budget action cameras tend to adopt the GoPro mount, and the Akaso EK7000 is no exception, which means there are literally hundreds of accessories that you can use, and in the box you get a fair few to get started. I've spent more on a few single GoPro accessories than I did on the whole Akaso package. That's not to say these accessories are going to be of the same quality, but then you have a cheaper camera attached if one were to break. I used one of the included accessories to mount a homemade rig to compare the Akaso to a GoPro Hero 5 Black. This managed to break within 20 minutes, with both the Akaso and GoPro crashing to the ground. I was pushing what this mount was spec'd for, but nonetheless I'd be surprised if a GoPro mount suffered the same fate. But generally the quality of the accessories look okay. The remote needs no setup to remotely control the Akaso. With the camera turned on, simply press the red photo button to take a picture and the grey video button to start and stop recording. This worked really well up to 5 to 10 meters away, and you don't need to have line of sight. But it's not waterproof. There's an interesting frame that clips to the bare camera, keeping it still light and compact, with the convenience of a tripod mount on the top and bottom. And without the waterproof housing, you can still record audio. There's even a mount with a spring clip that slides into the back of this frame and enables the camera to be easily attached to your clothing or a cap. There's a handlebar mount and a standard tripod mount for attaching the camera in its waterproof housing. And there are 2 adhesive-backed flat helmet mounts with a couple of quick mounts, as well as various other accessories that you may never use. There's no chest strap or hand grip, but you can get these and many others cheaply on Amazon, or even GoPro accessories if you're feeling flush. Battery life was only around 1 hour 15 minutes at 1080p, 60 frames per second. That's with Wi-Fi off. It's not great, but you do get a spare battery, and the external dual charger charges the battery from completely flat to full charge in just over an hour. I did find that sometimes inserting a battery just charged showed up as empty when I first turned the camera on. Turning the camera off then on again fixed this. In its housing, the camera is rated at waterproof to 30 meters. I wasn't able to test that claim, but I did leave it in a sink full of water for 30 minutes and it survived. I'll report back in the comments on how it fares at the beach over the summer. The 50mm LCD screen is quite usable so long as you look at it straight on and the conditions aren't too bright. Even in bright conditions it was sufficient for framing, and you could easily link it with your phone and use that as a viewfinder if you're really struggling. It's nowhere near as good as the screen on my Hero 5 Black, but I wouldn't expect it to be. I never expect an awful lot from action cameras microphones, although more recent models are improving. With the waterproof case attached you can barely hear any audio, but with the case off the microphone quality was okay and definitely usable, although there was a small amount of lip sync delay. This is the microphone on the Akaso with the case off. There's no option to add an external microphone, but you could record audio off your phone, even pairing up with an external mic and then sync them up in your video editor. Video quality in good light was okay and the camera generally did a good job with exposure. There is heavy processing, so you don't need to look too closely to see that familiar over-processed watercolour effect from aggressive noise reduction and sharpening, which can't be turned off. Colours can be a little too saturated, and skin tones often came out a bit yellow with the auto white balance not quite managing to adjust correctly in changing lighting. There's no image stabilisation, which does make the footage very shaky. Even just handheld on a tripod, it's pretty hard to keep a camera so lightweight steady. I tried it for running and cycling, and the footage, although usable, could certainly do with some software stabilisation applied to it. As I mentioned earlier, I would stick with 1080p at 60 frames per second for the best results from this camera. I think for the price, video quality in good light was better than I was expecting. In lower light, however, the camera really suffers. Even a good 45 minutes before sunset, with light levels just starting to dip, the footage was barely usable going through wooded areas on my mountain bike. An action camera with its tiny sensor is never going to be great in low light. The footage off my GoPro, albeit significantly more expensive, is perfectly usable in these conditions. This is definitely a camera for bright conditions. Photos are okay as long as you don't zoom in to try and look at them at 100%, and you'll still want good light. Again, if you look closely, they suffer from the same aggressive noise reduction and over-sharpening as videos do. Unsurprisingly, there's no raw photo mode. I tested the camera inside and outside the case. The waterproof housing didn't noticeably affect the quality of photos or videos. I've prepared a montage of samples off the camera with a GoPro Hero 5 Black used for comparison. If you want to skip to the conclusions at any time, please use the timestamps below. The Akaso EK7000 is a good value action camera, especially when you take into account the included accessories. In bright conditions, the video quality at 1080p is really quite good considering the price. As light levels dip, it does really struggle, and with no image stabilisation, the footage is going to be far from smooth for most activities. I wouldn't buy this camera for your once-in-a-lifetime action adventure, but for casual use or handing over to the children to get some footage you wouldn't otherwise get, I don't think you can go far wrong. In its waterproof housing, it's pretty robust, and if you did smash the case, you can get new ones for £10 or $10 on Amazon. So I'd have no hesitation strapping it to places I wouldn't necessarily attach a more expensive GoPro. It's very easy to use, the accompanying app worked better than I was expecting, and the included remote is a bonus. Just don't use it when the light's starting to fade. If you've got one of these cameras, what do you think of it? Have you found an even better budget action camera? Let me know down below. And as always, if you have any questions, please ask. I read every comment and I'll do my best to respond. I do hope you found this video useful. Please like the video if you did. I'm releasing videos every week on the latest technology and how to get the most out of it, so please make sure you subscribe. It helps more than you think. And don't forget to tap the bell icon if you want to get notified as soon as a new video gets uploaded. Thanks for watching.